What's up, pretty people? Welcome back for part 2 of this very special Mother's Day episode featuring my best friend, Jocelyn Blondell. Please be aware there is a trigger warning on this episode of graphic descriptions of a miscarriage. Stay tuned for a quick recap of last week's episode. Jocelyn has had quite the journey over the last 4 years. She became a wife, she became a stepmom, and she started her fertility journey.
So when I finally told my mom that I'm seeing Justin, she was like, this man knows what he wants. He wanted his family. He has his family. And what he wants is a woman that will step up and be a mother figure to these children. And if you can't do that for him, you need to leave him alone.
Yeah.
Okay. In my head, I was like, this looks crazy. Optics-wise,
Yeah.
I'm like, this looks freaking insane.
Yeah.
And I felt like at that time, I owed it to myself to be happy, and my maternal instincts were on from day one. I treat them as if they were my own children.
The three of you have learned to parent together.
100%. Obviously, it has its ups and its downs. Parenthood has its ups and downs.
Right.
You hear about evil stepmothers all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, can we celebrate the ones that are not that?
Nice. Yeah.
I don't want to wait, and I want to try, and let's start trying for a baby. In December of 2022, I got my first positive pregnancy test. I went in for my 9-week scan. My nurse practitioner comes in, Liz, and she's like, there's no heartbeat. And I was like, oh, what are you talking about? And she's like, I'm so sorry. The baby must have stopped growing at 8.5 weeks. And I was like, oh, fuck. So mind you, obviously Justin knows that I'm going in for a scan. He thinks that I'm getting a heartbeat. My mom, you guys know, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sobbing.
I know. It's the worst phone call I think I've ever gotten.
Cannot breathe. I called Justin, and I was like, there's no baby. And he's like, I don't understand. I was like, so I couldn't even talk. And I was like, there's no baby. There's no heartbeat. So they're checking my blood just to confirm. So I go in, I go to Quest. I'm like, obviously a mess. And then I call my mom on my way home. And you and my mom come. I call you and I call my mom. And you guys meet me at the house. And I'm just like, I don't know.
I'll never forget that phone call. You called me, and as me and Jocelyn are best friends, we don't call each other. It's really weird. We don't communicate. We don't communicate through phone calls. So when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, something's up." And I knew you were going for your ultrasound. And I was like, "Hey," I picked up the phone. I'm like, "Hey, Joss." And it was just silence, and then it was you crying. And it was awful. And you were like, "Amanda, there's no baby." And I was like, I'm confused. What do you mean? I go, no, there is. And you said, no, there's no baby. There's no heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
And as a friend, you feel helpless because there's quite literally nothing that you could do. And you hear your friend on the other line, on the other end of the phone, having this awful, terrible moment, and you can't do anything for her. And it feels helpless. And I there's nothing that you can say to make that moment okay. And there wasn't. And it's one of those where it's like, this moment is awful. And there's nothing that anyone can say.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget that phone call.
Yeah. So after that, you and my mom came. Yeah. And I remember sitting on the couch
and we just cuddled.
I was stunned mostly. Yeah. And I was crying, and I was just like, this can't be happening to me. No. There's just no fucking way. I waited a whole year for this positive test, and you're telling me this is fake, this is not real. So, because I was further in my pregnancy, I had to get a D&C. Right. So that in and of itself was so wildly traumatic, right? I had to
really quick, just in case anyone that doesn't know what a D&C is, right. It's basically the removal
of any tissue that's in there. As soon as I got the blood test results back that confirmed that my HCG levels were dropping, and I miscarried. my doctor called me and was like, you have to come in and we have to do a DNC. You'll have to undergo surgery and I have to remove any tissue that's in there, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the first time I was ever going to have to do that. I've never had to undergo anesthesia before. So this was a lot of firsts for me, and it was wildly sad, right? I remember sitting there, and I had, like, my little, like, hat on. My hair. Yeah. And I was in, like, my thing, and we're at St. Anthony's in Warwick, which is such a nice freaking hospital. Everybody was so kind to me. And Justin's there with me, and I feel so bad because I'm like, I'm sorry. And he's like, why are you saying sorry? And I was just like, I don't know. I feel like I should say sorry about this.
He lost a baby too.
I know. Yeah. So I'm sitting there and they're asking me questions and I am like stone faced. And you know me, how like I get sometimes. I'm just like strong. Like I am woman, hear me roar, right? And I was just sitting there and I'm just like, here we are. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, we're here. We gotta do this. Like, I've cried already. Like, fuck it. Can we just get this over with and let's keep it moving? And the nurse said to me, she was like, "It's okay if you don't want to cry. I'll cry for you."
I lost it. These amazing people,
and I literally lost it. She was, "It's okay." So I lost it, right? So I sat there and I let them give me the whatever fucking thing to like calm you down. Yeah.
It's okay, friend.
Okay. So they were all very nice. And then I just remember after coming out of that, I like freaked out because you know, like you come to and you're like, oh God, where am I? And I was frantically looking for Justin and he was right there and I was like, okay. And then I immediately like went back to sleep and I slept for a little bit longer and then I got up and then my doctor came in and he was like, hey, everything's good. You look really good down there. And I was like, thanks. Doc. And he was like, you know what? Just like, they had explained this to me before. Just like, unfortunately, losses happen the first time. It's a common thing. But because he's already seen the insides of me, he's like, I think you're going to be fine moving forward. Like, there's nothing wrong. You look healthy. Everything looks good underneath there. I'm sure you'll have a successful, second pregnancy. Okay. Thanks. So that happened in January of 2023.
Yep.
Right? I got pregnant early December. I found out I was pregnant early December of 2022. I had my DNC. It was January 10th, 2023.
You were about 8 weeks along that first time.
9 weeks.
Okay.
Well, I found out at 9 weeks. They said the baby stopped growing at 8.5. So
got it. Okay.
So after that, obviously that was traumatic and we were still trying.
Yep.
Right? So I got my first period back and then I was like, I mean, there's no reason to not try. Let's keep doing this. So then in March, it was like early March, and I couldn't get off the bed. Like my stomach was like in knots.
Yeah.
And I started hysterically crying. I was in so much pain. And Justin's like, what happened? What happened? And I was just like crying. I couldn't release. I couldn't like relax my pelvic floor enough without me being in excruciating pain. Yeah. And I was like, I literally sat on the toilet. I doubled over to the toilet and I sat on the toilet hysterical.
No.
I did not know what happened. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Yeah. So the next morning, I mean, obviously I Googled your best friend.
Yeah.
It's like your worst enemy. And I went on Google and all signs were pointing to a ruptured cyst.
Jesus.
Right? So so the next day I'm talking to my sisters. I talked to group chat about it. They were like, you should probably call your doctor. Just call your doctor, see what's going on. Yeah. So at this point, I have like Liz's direct line, right? So I'm like, hey Liz, this is what happened, blah, blah, blah. She's like, come in, let's do a scan. Yeah. So I go in and I have a lot of, they couldn't even see like my right ovary. I had a lot of free fluid in my abdomen. And she's like, it could have been a ruptured cyst, but like we just saw the insides of you in January and it's only March. So if a cyst grew that big to rupture in that size, so you release all of this liquid, that's concerning. Right. So she's like, I'm going to talk to Dr. Ara and see what we're going to do. I went into this scan, mind you, with Junie and Ace. Because it was like the next morning, she's like, can you come in at, I don't know, it was like 9:30. I was like, sure, I got the boys. They got to come with me. Here we are. So I go in with them. And she's seeing patients. She told me to. She was so sweet. She was like, when you get there, just tell them to tell me that you're here so I can have Ace and Junie in another room while you get your scan. Right. And I didn't want to bother her because, we don't want to bother people. Right. So I just let them come into the scan with me. They're on one side. Like, they don't obviously see anything, whatever. But they're there with me. And Ace especially, like, he gets the vibes. Yeah. He knows I'm upset. He knows, like, something's going on. I'm like, what? So she's like, well, you have a lot of this free fluid, blah, blah, blah. We're just going to see if your body reabsorbs it. So I'm like, okay, I'm scared, right? So I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. And I go in like a week later, I get another scan, there's still fluid there. And she's like, Dr. Ara wants you to get an MRI. And I go, okay, I've never had an MRI. Right. Here we go. Like, what are we going to do? You just got to do it, right? So I'm like, okay. She's like, however, you cannot get an MRI if you're pregnant. And I know you guys are obviously, like, this is happening while we're actively trying. So I called, like, it was like Hudson Valley Imaging or something. And I called and they're like, are you pregnant? And I was like, I don't know, but I can be. Yeah. I'm unsure. Yeah, like, I'm sure in that in between. Yeah. Right? Like, it's like too early, but it's like late enough that I could be pregnant. Right. So I don't know. And she was like, well, I called them on a Friday. Yeah. She's like, you can come in on Monday. But we need to just make sure that you're not pregnant. So take a pregnancy test and call us back. So I was like, cool. I was like, I don't think I'm pregnant. Mm-hmm. So I took a pregnancy test. I put it down, blah, blah, blah. I'm like doing other things. I'm talking to my sister. And I go back and I'm fucking pregnant. Mind you, this is 5 days before my expected period. Yeah. So it's Friday. I'm supposed to get my period on Tuesday.
Now, really quick for timeline. Mm-hmm. You had your DNC
January.
Mm-hmm. Beginning of January. When is this?
Early March.
Okay.
Right. So I've only had maybe one cycle or two in between, right? So I take this early pregnancy test because I'm supposed to get my period on Tuesday. Yep. But if I don't get my period on Tuesday, I'm pregnant. Yeah. And I don't want to get an MRI when I'm pregnant. Right. So I take this early pregnancy test. And it says I'm pregnant. So I call back and I was like, hey, cancel that because I'm pregnant. She's like, oh, great, congrats. And I was like, thanks. Click, call Liz. And I'm like, Liz, I'm pregnant. And she was like, all right, can you come in on Monday to get your blood work script so you can go get your HCGs? I said, yeah, sounds good. So Monday I go, I pick up my scripts, I get my HCGs. Tuesday I start bleeding. Like I have my regular period. So I text her Tuesday. It's like 6:30 a.m. And I was like, Liz, I'm bleeding. And she was like bleeding. And I was like, ma'am, I have my period. And she's like, obviously, like, I can't say anything until we have, results and stuff like that. She's like, but can you come in for a scan today? And I was like, yeah, I have the boys again. Because the boys are with me all the time, right? And she's like, yeah. She's like, bring them in. She's like, when you come in, like, blah, blah, blah. So I come in, she's obviously busy seeing patients. I don't want to bother her. The boys come in with me again at the scan, and I just know, like, this can't be good. And she goes, like, there's no sac, there's no anything there. The sonogram's not showing anything. Your HCG levels are low. It's not negative for negative pregnancy, but they're low. Yeah. And she's like, and there's still free fluid in your abdomen. Dr. Ara wants to check that for cancer. And I lose it. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, just, you don't have cancer. You're fine. She's like, but I am so lucky because I see horror stories about how medical professionals and doctors just do not do right by their patients. And this doctor dots his fucking I's and crosses his T's. Yeah. And he is so good even when it scares the shit out of you.
A saint.
He takes all of your concerns to heart, and he will do anything and everything to make you feel at ease. But when I heard that, I was hysterical. Ace is hugging me, mind you, because I'm like, Liz, what do you mean? She's like, Jocelyn, I don't want you to think about it. I'm like, what do you mean don't think about it? That's quite literally the only thing I'm thinking about.
You can't say the C word and not
that is the only thing I'm thinking about. And she was like, well, it's been like, a couple weeks and like all of the fluid hasn't been absorbed yet. So like he just wants to know where it's coming from. And I'm like, so I still have to get an MRI. He's checking me for my CA-125s and all of this other cancer.
You might still be pregnant. You still might be pregnant at this point. You don't know. You're kind of excited to be pregnant, but you're not because of all this craziness.
Losing it. So HCG levels come back. They confirm that I'm actively miscarrying, and I still have to do this MRI, and I still have to get my results back about cancer or not. So my doctor's in the Philippines at this point. He's calling me from WhatsApp. 12-hour difference.
He's on vacation.
And he's still calling me.
So great.
And that's how I know he's the best person.
He's the best.
And Liz is actively sending me messages, asking me how I'm doing. And he calls me, and at the end of our phone call, he was just like, going over like it could have been a chemical pregnancy. And a chemical pregnancy is basically when you take an early pregnancy test and your HCG levels are rising, but the egg fails to implant.
Got it.
Right? So had I not taken the early pregnancy test, I would have never known.
Because of the MRI, you would have never known.
I would have never known.
And you would have just had your regular period.
I would have just had my period on Tuesday.
So it was almost like the egg was almost there, but just didn't fully implant.
And then it was like, just kidding.
Yeah.
Right. Where my body was like, hey, we're getting there. Yeah. Hey, we have an egg.
Yep.
We got this.
We're close.
We're so close. And then it failed.
Chemical. Yes.
It failed.
But you would have known if you did. If you had the MRI, so you had to take the test. So okay.
I would have.
It could have just been a regular period.
Right.
But trauma. Here we are.
So in all of that, so he calls me and he's like explaining to me what a chemical pregnancy is. And at that point, I don't give a shit about a chemical pregnancy. I want to know if I have cancer.
Do I have cancer? Because someone said the C word.
That is quite literally the only thing that's on my brain. And he's like, Jocelyn, you don't have cancer. I'm just like, I'm just testing. So like we make sure, but like there's no other signs of you having cancer. And I'm like, doctor, sir.
Yeah.
You have to know that that's quite literally the only thing I'm thinking about.
As soon as that person said that word, that's the only thing that I've been thinking about.
Me thinking about a chemical pregnancy or that like, wow, I've had just like a second failed pregnancy is not on my mind. What's on my mind is it worse? And he's like, no. He's like, we're going to get the results back soon, but like, I'm sure you're fine. Mm. And I had my first ever anxiety attack. And Justin had to quite literally pick me up off of the floor, get me in the shower. I remembered in the moment, because I still didn't have my results about cancer, I was Googling all of my symptoms, right? And
obviously. Because then you're a doctor.
So now my symptoms are pointing to cancer.
Every symptom.
But obviously all of those symptoms also point to an anxiety attack.
Yeah.
And
it's like I have a headache. You either are dying or you need to take some aspirin and you're fine.
So I'm in the shower. I'm on the floor in the shower and hot water. Just like it's not obviously making me feel better at all, because if you ever had an anxiety attack, literally nothing fucking makes you feel better.
Nothing makes you feel better.
So he comes in, he gives me the shot of Jameson, he takes a shot of Jameson, and we both take it together, and I sit there, and I go, okay, I think I can get out now. He's like, you sure? It's like, yeah, and he dresses me, he combs my hair. He combed my hair for me, and he's like, just go to bed. And I go, okay, I think I'm going to go to bed. He's like, all right. And I was like, but I have to be so present for these boys still. that doesn't turn off.
No.
You know, I still have to be a mom.
Because you're the mom in that house.
I still have to be a mom. And he was like, I got this, it's fine. And I lay in bed and
Junie, what a good man.
Junie comes in. Jossie. And I'm like, hey, I'm right here. Ace comes in. Jossie, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I think I just want to lay down for a little bit. Can I lay down with you? Okay. Yeah. And we literally sat there for the rest of the night. And I will always remember that night because I remember Justin taking a shot with me and those boys not leaving me alone. They're like, I don't want to leave you alone. Don't worry. I'm not going to bother you. I'm not going to ask anything from you, but, like, can we just lay in the bed with you?
They're your boys and you're their mom.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, come on. And a week later, I got my results. I don't have cancer.
Thank God.
God bless.
God.
But finally, when that happened, I just remember, obviously, like, the sigh of relief. I think we can get through this. And then I get pregnant again.
All right, so now take me through. Now we're within a year 3 times.
Okay, yeah. So
you're testing positive 3 times for pregnancy.
Yeah, so now this is my 3rd positive test.
How far apart?
So December was my first positive. Yep. And I miscarried in January. That was my longest one. It was 9 weeks. Chemical pregnancy in March. Yep. And then pregnancy again end of June, early July. Okay. Right? It was the Barbie party. Epic party. Party of the summer.
Party of the year.
Literally party of the year.
Thank you.
And I immediately knew from the beginning that it was not going to be good. You knew it too.
I knew it too.
You knew it too.
And I didn't know why I knew it.
We just had that feeling.
You told me, you were like, I'm pregnant. And I said, okay. And I knew. And we were like, both of us kind of looked at each other like, oh, I don't know that this is it. Like, and it was like a weird feeling.
There was no, like, rhyme or reason.
And I wanted to be so supportive and positive.
I wanted to be optimistic as hell.
Me too. And I knew that you weren't, so then I wanted to be that for you. But something in my heart,
we just
said, this isn't it.
This is not it.
And I don't know what, and you can't say it. There's no rhyme or reason.
Oh, it was right before the Barbie party.
Right before the Barbie party.
Yeah.
And but I wanted to be there and be that support for you and be like, no, Jocelyn, we got to think positive and put the positive vibes out there. Because trust me, I do believe in that. But there was something in my heart that I was like, this.
We just knew. We were so realistic about this one.
I know. You looked at me and that also, what a shit feeling. I don't know how else to say it or describe it. For you to find out that you're pregnant, I'm sure a lot of women go through this who are feeling the same way you are, and to not be excited about it.
Yeah, there was zero excitement.
And that's so shitty because this is supposed to be the greatest day,
the greatest day,
and the best day of finding out that you're pregnant and seeing that positive test, and that kills me that you have had bad experiences that it ruined it for you.
100%.
That you were not even excited, and rather the gift of feeling excited and happy like you should be, you were nervous and anxious and not excited about it. And like, as your friend, like, I hate that for you. Like, because you deserve to be so happy in that moment.
Yeah.
Because I know this is what you want.
Yeah. It was like one of those, I got the positive pregnancy test and I was just like, And it was because I was spotting from day one. And I was bleeding and I was just like, and then everything in me, and I don't know if any other women who are watching this that have experienced a miscarriage, it felt like I was holding on for dear life. It felt like my uterus was quite literally contracting to hold this thing for dear life, and I couldn't relax.
It's almost like I don't know a nice way to say this, but like, it was almost like your body was rejecting it from like day 100%.
My body was like, I don't want this.
That this was not right.
And there's
or
so
viable
many theories
or whatever
go into that, right? Like whether it's viable, whether it's any blood clot disorder or chromosomal disorder, anything like that. But in the moment, I felt that, like, okay, as a woman, you do Kegels, right? And when you contract, that's what my body felt like the entire time.
That's insane.
And I could never just like pee in this total relaxation because I felt like my body was constantly, and it could have been a mental thing, but it was just constantly like holding on for dear life. And remember, I was in this limbo for a little bit where I was just like, fucking let it go. I cannot do this anymore. Let it
I remember that time because I remember you just being like, I know, like, you know your body.
And I'm bleeding. I'm quite literally spotting. I've been spotting for a week and a half. If you're not going to hold on to this little fucking embryo, let it go.
Let it go. Let's be done. Because now it's more trauma for you.
100%.
And it's like not even the trauma on your body mentally.
Oh God,
the trauma of now you're pregnant, now you're yet again passing another embryo, and like you know your body, and at this point you've done this 2 other times this year alone, and it's like I know my body, and I know that this is not viable, and that this is not it. But also, it's like your body's taking so long to pass, and it's like, just pass. Like, let's just like,
can you just do the fucking thing?
Right. Let's just be done with this, because it's almost even just more stress and trauma on yourself and your body and your mental health
and I thought that your brain, your everything. And I thought that was bad. The third one was worse, right? But before we get there,
dear God,
so I'm sitting there like, can we just move on? Like, I've been spotting for a week and a half. At this point, I'm 6 weeks pregnant. Just let her go. And then finally I was teaching at 94 Pilates, and I was in the middle of a session, and I felt it all just gush out, and I was like, oh, excuse me. And I sat on the toilet, and it was just, and I just remember going, ugh. And I was like disappointed.
Disappointed in what?
Disappointed that I was right. I was like sad that like
you were right.
I was right.
It's like you wanted to be wrong.
I wanted to be wrong.
What your body was
I've never wanted to be wrong.
Yeah.
So badly.
Because there's nothing that you want more.
Right.
Than for this to be healthy.
Yeah.
And to do this, but it's also like God,
I was doing like,
to your, and this is the thing about Jocelyn. Jocelyn, if nothing else, is a realist.
Yeah.
Even when we don't want it, she is, and thank God for that. But it's also like one of those things where it's like, you just wanted to be wrong so bad, because you want to be pregnant, and
I do.
But you also realistically are listening to your body. You're not putting false narratives in your head. And
no,
like,
I'm not.
I know what my body feels
delusional, like, and I'm gonna be like, listen, this is what's happening, and like that fucking sucks. Yeah. So I remember sitting there on the toilet, right, bleeding out, and I'm like, I call Liz. I'm like, hey,
we love her.
She's literally my angel.
She's an angel.
She's an angel. And I'm like, I just started bleeding. And she's like spotting. I'm like, no, ma'am. Like, I am bleeding. And at this point, they've obviously already been super aware that I've been spotting this entire time. And she's like, I'm sorry, Jocelyn. Like, this doesn't sound good. Again, like, she won't give me any, like, definitives over the phone until we get, definitive answers on, like, tests and stuff. But she's like, doesn't sound good. And I was like, all right, well, like, I'm teaching for another 3 hours. Okay. So I'll just put a pad on. And I remember I walked back out. I was hysterical. And they're like, do you want to end class? And I was like, no, because what am I going to do? Go home and fucking cry about it? Yeah. Here we are. And I was like, and I fucking taught for the next 3 hours, and I went home.
Which, okay, the fact, Jocelyn, that you were actively passing a pregnancy, and you continued on with your day, with your work day.
Men could never.
I'm sorry, men could never. Like, no, and I'm serious. Like, the fact that you stood there tall and strong on one of the worst days of your life, and just continued on with your day.
I remember I said,
it is wild and insane to think about and to say out loud, because I want to draw attention to it, and I'm glad that we're drawing attention to it, because it's bullshit that I feel like, everyone just thinks that it's common and normal and fine. And it's not fine.
This was obviously way different than my first miscarriage. This miscarriage was the first miscarriage that I actively bled out. Where my first miscarriage, I had 0 bleeding.
Right.
So, like, not having a heartbeat at the scan came as such a shock.
Yeah.
Where this one, and I was on progesterone for this one.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. So, like, after the first miscarriage, many doctors will put you on progesterone just to, like, kind of plump up your uterus to make sure that you have, like, a really nice, like, healthy womb for you to, like, hold on to that egg. And so when I started spotting, they were hopeful that that's what it was. Like, you just have a really plush uterus right now. Yeah. So, like, it's just, like, knocking off any excess, uterine lining that you have that we don't need to hold this pregnancy. But I knew, like, obviously, like, I felt that. And I was on progesterone from my first chemical pregnancy. So this was the second pregnancy that I was on progesterone for, because I get that question a lot, that, like, oh, has your doctor put you on progesterone? I was like, yep, very. And my progesterone levels have never been low. They've never been lacking. Right. So, but they, just in case, they had me on it just in case. So after this July one, I got my first period very quickly, right? Like, I miscarried July 4th weekend, and then I got my first period at the Barbie party. Okay. And I remember I was so sad. Because first off, it's a Barbie party. Who wants their period at the
Barbie party?
But it was like, wow, like, this, like, re-upped so quickly. And I just, like, was not prepared for that. I was like, holy shit. Like, I already got my period. Like, that's freaking crazy. Like, I literally just bled out. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess this is it. This is, here we are. And then that's when my doctors were like, take a couple months off. Just do not actively try. Just, like, please just chill. Like, give your body a break. Like, you've just had 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, your body needs time to recover.
They don't technically count a chemical pregnancy as a miscarriage. Okay. Because I didn't miss a period. Right. So, they don't technically count it as that, but, like, obviously, like, in my heart and in my brain, like, that's a loss. Yeah. Because I thought I was pregnant and then I wasn't. Absolutely. So then I took a couple months off and I was good. And they were like, if you miscarry again, you'll have to see a fertility specialist. So then, I found out I was pregnant over Thanksgiving. So now this was July, so I skipped August, skipped September, skipped October, 3 months in between. Yep. Just, like, nice, healthy periods. Everything was good. Yep. And then, well, I guess I got pregnant in October. And then November, the Saturday before Thanksgiving, I found out I'm pregnant. Okay. And this is a year to my first. Yep. Right? And I'm like, oh, boy, wow, here we are. We're going to do this again. And I am straight up delulu, right? I'm living in this land of delusion that there are times to charm. This is it. This is it. Nothing bad is going to happen.
It's almost like you feel like, I put my time in.
100%.
I put my time in of bad times.
100%.
So
and I'm like,
I'm due a happy ending.
I deserve a happy ending.
Yeah. Which you do.
So I'm like, we're good. I am fine. I'm healthy. Yeah. I am not the pillar of healthiness and whatever, but, like, I am not
You lead a healthy lifestyle.
I lead a very healthy lifestyle. Right. My stress is very low. Yeah. I live a very low risk lifestyle. I don't speed.
Yeah.
You don't speed. So I'm, like, just thinking, I'm, like, going into this, like, oh my gosh, I feel really good about this.
Yeah, we were positive.
This is going to be so fucking great. And then, what even happens? This last one was such a doozy. It, like, blows my mind. So the Saturday before Thanksgiving, I find out I'm pregnant. So Thursday comes, that's Thanksgiving. And then that weekend's Black Friday weekend. And we always get our Christmas tree Black Friday weekend. And then on Sunday, when the boys come home from their moms, we decorate the tree. Yep. And we are decorating the tree, and I gush out blood. And I'm literally in the middle of recording us putting the tree up. And I go, I have to go upstairs. He's like, what happened? I was like, I am bleeding. And he was like, okay. I go upstairs and I look at this blood and I'm just like,
no. You know.
I know. I've seen this before. So I text Liz and I tell her, and she's like, all right, come in tomorrow to get your blood script, right? So I go in, I get my HCG levels checked, and then I was going in on Tuesday for a scan. Now, mind you, I'm so early on, they don't expect to see anything in a scan anyway, but they want to see, like, what my uterine lining is looking like, all of that good stuff. So I go in, and my HCG levels have dropped. Have gone up from my initial ones. So when I found out I was pregnant, when I got my initial pregnancy test, I go in and I always get my blood work done. So I have like a baseline from where I start. And it has gone up from there, which is not what's supposed to happen. Obviously, like if there's a miscarriage, you're supposed to go down.
Right, but it went up, so we're positive. We're feeling good.
So I'm like, okay, but I'm bleeding.
Right.
And I'm like, I had a full-on period. I bled for 4 days. So I'm like, what's happening? And she's like, I don't know. That's really interesting that it's doing that. We're going to do your blood again. Because at this point, like what they see in the scan is a very thin uterine lining. Yeah. Like I'm obviously shedding it. Like I am not pregnant. Right. So I go in for my HCG levels again, and it's gone up again. And she's like, okay.
So what's showing in the scans now is not correlating to what's happening with your body physically.
Yes and no, because at the same time, again, they're not going to really see a lot in the scans because I'm so early on.
Right.
However, the uterine lining is kind of what they're looking at, making sure they can see, even if it's like a spot in it.
Yep.
Right? Because even at 5 weeks, like they'll see something. There will be no fetal pole, but they'll see like something. And nothing. Right? So I don't get my results till the day after, right? So say I went in, I got my blood work done again on a Wednesday. We get them on a Thursday. So Thursday morning, it's literally 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm sitting at the table having breakfast with Ace, where I'm about to take him to school. And Liz is calling me. And I'm like, this cannot be good. Yeah. Right? So I answer the phone and she's like, hey, what are you doing today? And I was like, Liz, what is going on?
What are you doing today, Liz?
Yeah.
Because I'm doing whatever you're doing.
You tell me what to do.
What's the plan
do
today?
It.
Yeah.
And she goes, well, me and Dr. Aro looked over your results and just looking at your scans, and we're just, like concerned about how this is trending, especially because you've basically had a period, you've bled so much. Yeah. So Dr. Aro is associated with St. Anthony's here in Warwick, so she's like, you need to go there. And I'm like, I have to go to the hospital? Yeah. And she's like, you need to go there and get your HCG levels checked again and get an emergency sonogram. I'm hysterical. Yeah. And she's like, Jocelyn, text me the entire time. I have a friend who works there. Mm-hmm. She's going to triage you and take care of you. Don't worry about it. Yeah. You're in good hands. I feel so confident that everything that's going to happen will happen greatly, but I am fucking terrified.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, guys, I thought I miscarried. I thought I was done.
Yeah, I thought we were done with this. So you're telling me there's still a pregnancy going on?
What?
Now it's kind of like your hope or your happiness is kind of like, oh, wait, is this?
So now
is this it? Could it be it?
So I'm like, so I look at Justin and I was just like, I have to figure something out with Junior. Yeah. It's Thursday. Yeah. Right? And Junior doesn't go to his mom's till Thursday afternoon. Yeah. So I was like, babe, like, you have to stay home with him, like, take him to speech, and then afterwards, you take him. Yeah. You take him, and I have to go to St. Anthony's. Yeah. So I go to St. Anthony's. They were so, so, so kind to me. And again, sonogram tech is blank in the face, can tell me nothing. The doctor comes back in. He's like, your HCG levels went up again. And at this point, we don't want to do anything. We just want to continue to monitor you.
because your HCG levels are going up,
which means I have a viable pregnancy.
Pregnancy is good.
Even though I've bled, I technically have a viable pregnancy. Oh, well,
also
I don't know if it's viable, but I technically have a pregnancy.
Right, but it's also, again, hard to be happy. And to be excited about it.
Listen,
I can't even imagine.
This timeline is so long.
I know. This was a bad one.
It was right after Thanksgiving. I'm bleeding. 5 days later, my HCG levels are still going up. So now, when your HCG levels are getting checked, you have to go every 48 hours.
Literally every 2 days you're getting blood.
Every 2 days,
and they're like, yo, going up. And you're like, well, this doesn't match what's happening with my body. I'm confused.
It keeps trending. So it keeps trending up. Now, mind you, in the beginning, after I bled and my HCG levels went up, my doctor was like, we may have to give you a methotrexate shot to stop this pregnancy. Okay? Because it could be an ectopic. We won't see how that kind of presents itself. So like we should just like maybe stop it.
An ectopic, maybe for those who don't know,
is when the egg starts to form outside of your uterus in your fallopian
tube.
And
it cannot be viable.
It's not viable.
You have got to end the pregnancy at that point.
Yes, because you will die. So to be frank, that's what happens.
Yep.
So we are going on through this monitoring, and my OB is basically like, hey, I've seen weirder things, right? It could very well have been that like this egg was on its way out and another one implanted in, and this is why your HCG levels are coming up and you are still pregnant. But that kind of like restarts the timeline of pregnancy.
Things happen.
Weirder things have happened, right? She said, right? So we're going through this monitoring, blah, blah, blah. She takes my blood, and for the sake of numbers, she takes my HCG, and my HCG levels come back at, let's say 600. Okay? So I'm like, all right, well, like that's high.
Not pregnant, 0.
So no, not pregnant is 0, and pregnant is 20. So 600 is high. 600 is
pretty high.
We're like, hey, we're
like, yo, there's
definitely something going on.
Something's going on in there,
right? So 2 days later, I get my HCG levels checked again, and I'm at 4. So she's like, ooh.
600 to 4.
So she calls me, and she's like, hey, sorry, it just looks like you're going to miscarry again. Like, this is an impeding miscarriage because your HCG levels dropped, right? So I go, it's quite literally the day Junie's about to be assessed for autism, for ABA. So I go, thank you so much. I'll cry later. I can't cry right now. Like, I got shit to do.
You got shit to do. Can't cry.
Quite literally, like, we had a virtual meeting at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Like, we had things to do. So afterwards, I obviously sat on the couch just like this on the Chase Lounge, and Justin's like, you ready to go to bed? I was like, no, like, my mind is reeling, and I need to cry about it. So, like, let's just, like, all stay down here. Let's watch a movie down here, and let me just cry. Okay? I just need a moment. Yeah. And then when she called me, she was like, I want you to take your blood levels again in 2 days. 2 days. I go back in. So it started at 6 and went down to 4. When I went back in, it was at 8.
So it went back up. It was shot up, went down, but then went back up.
Shot back up to even more than
what is going on?
So I'm like, so when they called me with the results, I'm like, I'm confused. And they were like, yeah, this is like interesting. I was like, well,
we're probably like us too.
Yeah, if you're confused, ma'am, I'm
wildly confused.
I have no idea what's going on. So then I did my HCG levels again, and they went down just a little bit. Say they went to 800, they're not at they're like 760 2 days later. So it's like hovering around this point, which typically would point to an ectopic pregnancy. Okay. So we did an emergency sonogram. Quite literally, they see nothing. And at this point, it is December 18th. It's like 5 weeks after I found out I was pregnant the first time. Right. And I've just been living through this.
Right.
Am I pregnant? Am I not? I'm just kidding. Yes, I am. No, I'm not.
You are pregnant. Then you're not pregnant.
Then I'm not. Yeah. So right before Christmas.
My God. My mental health shocked.
Yeah.
My emotions, the roller coaster.
Yeah. So
I can't even imagine.
Right before Christmas, they call me, and after they got my second readings of the HCG and saw that it was like kind of just like hovering, and they were like, we're just gonna end this pregnancy. We're gonna give you a shot of methotrexate, and we're just gonna end it because the sonogram shows nothing. So that means they deemed it a pregnancy in an unknown place. And Mandy said it best. She was like, I'm sorry, does your uterus have a trap door?
Yeah. What do you mean an unknown place? You can't find it?
Like, where's the sack?
Yeah,
dude?
yeah. Where's
that?
Waldo?
Mm-hmm.
Where is it? It's unknown. You don't know where.
Yeah. So then
today's day and age, you can't find
Amanda took me to my appointment to get my methotrexate shot.
Yes,
and if you guys don't know what methotrexate is, it's a chemotherapeutic drug that obviously ends pregnancy. A lot of people use it for rheumatoid arthritis and stuff like that. I got it obviously in a very low dose because I don't have rheumatoid arthritis and we need it specifically just to end the pregnancy.
Yep.
And I got it. I didn't know how it worked, obviously, because now at this point, all of my miscarriages have been so wildly different, right? One is a DNC, one was a chemical pregnancy, one I bled out, and now this one I have to end chemically, like this
because we don't even know where it's at.
Know where it is. So, we went to the doctors, and they're like, "Oh, where's the medication?" And I was like, I don't understand. I thought you guys had it.
You're the doctor. You have the medication.
And they're like, no, like we give it to you, but we administer it. So we had to leave, go pick up my prescription, bring it back.
They made a prescription, so it was at Walgreens.
Yeah.
And she had to pick it up and then bring it to the doctor to administer it.
Correct.
Which, quite honestly, makes no sense.
I didn't even know that was
Make it make sense. It also feels like we should not have that power.
I should not have that.
We should not be allowed that responsibility of having that power of having that drug.
No, it's so true.
That is very uncomfortable.
I go in, and the doctor's so funny. She was so cute. She's so sweet, very informative. And then she's like explaining to me everything that's going on. And then she goes, all right, turn around, drop trowel. And I was like,
let's go, girl.
I'm like leaned over, and she's giving me the shot in my ass.
And she was like, take me to dinner first.
And then she goes, all right, I hope we don't have to do it again because there's a chance that like you need a second dosage if like it doesn't actually like take the pregnancy. Thankfully, like it did. But after that, she was like, I have to stop trying for 3 months because it is a therapeutic, a chemotherapeutic drug. It can cause deformities in pregnancies. You have to make sure it's out of your system. Right. So I had to wait 3 months.
You can't take the chance of getting pregnant.
It just doesn't bode well on your mental health.
Right.
To be like, hey, like I just got the shot and now I got pregnant. Like, is this new pregnancy going to have any deformities? So finally, after that, she kind of just looked at me and was just like, you're healthy. Yeah. And everything's fine. I have no answers. Like, you need to see a fertility doctor. So finally, the insurance thing was a whole hassle. And I found a fertility doctor 2 hours and 15 minutes away. Dr. A. And I drove upstate to Clifton Park, and I talked to him for like 45 minutes, and I am still so in like the thick of it. Yeah. Like I haven't even delved into the world of IUI or IVF or anything like that.
When did you see Dr. A?
I saw him in January.
So it's only been
3 months.
4 months? 4 months.
Almost 4 months.
Right.
So when I saw him in January, he was like, listen, he's like, we obviously like there's nothing much that we can do right now. Like,
what's the plan he put together for you though at that point?
I have to wait 3 months. So that's where I'm at now. Methotrexate.
Sorry. Is out of your system, and then you can start trying again.
And as soon as I was starting to try, I have to take a baby aspirin. And then once I get a positive pregnancy test, I can call him, and then we'll move forward. So like I am.
So you guys
wildly in the thick of it.
So you have a new plan right now.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. With a fertility specialist.
Nice. So I'm like, okay, there's something.
Got it. You've been trying.
Mm-hmm.
And how are you feeling right now? How are you dealing also with the last year and the trauma quite literally of trying to get pregnant and losing all of these pregnancies? Like, how are you moving forward with that? What are you doing to move forward with that?
Delusion. I'm just kidding. No, it's like I mean, obviously some days are easier than the others, right?
Yeah.
And that's like with anything. I feel that I am so busy in my everyday life that these last 3 months have gone by so fast.
Yeah.
Where in January, when, or I got my methotrexate shot right after Christmas, which was so shitty, right? I'm like, thanks, guys. When January came, I was like, wow, I have to wait 3 months again to like move forward in my life. So many things happened in like just like my regular life, right? Like, you know, like changes with Junior and just the winters happening and seasonal depression and just like I could find any which way to distract myself. And I was very successful in doing that this winter. I was very successful in doing that these last 3 months, and not in an unhealthy way. Like I just found other things to pour my energy into that were productive. Because me being sad about not being able to even try to get pregnant the last 3 months was not going to be productive for me.
A realist.
Yeah, it just like literally wasn't going to be productive. Like, was I just sit there and fucking cry every day? Like, get it together. You have 2 children that are looking to you and like are quite literally feeding off of your energy every single day. We need to do something about that. And Junie started ABA therapy in February, so I'm like, there are so many other things that I can be pouring my energy into. I quite literally cannot get pregnant right now. That's the last thing that's on my mind. So I was able to not forget, but just not stress about it.
Redirect your focus.
All of that anxiety onto literally anything else. But I know there's so many things in my life that I cannot control. Yeah. And I feel like that is the hardest part for me. Where I am a very goal-oriented person. And when I put my mind to something, I'm like, all right, let's do it. So like when something's not happening, I'm like, why not? Yeah. I'm confused. I'm doing all the right things. I'm taking all the right steps. Like, why isn't it happening? Yeah. So it's been a struggle for me to kind of take a step back and be like, yeah, it is what it is. Like,
this isn't happening right now.
It's not happening right now. And maybe there's a lesson in that. Maybe it's all in God's time. Maybe it's just not the right time, whatever. That's obviously not should I want to hear at all whatsoever. But it's like every day I kind of just think to myself, like, okay, well, I think about my hardest days. And on my hardest days, sometimes I'm like, okay, how much harder would it be if you were pregnant right now? Right. How much harder would it be if you had a newborn right now? Because I think about it, last year at this time, I would have had a newborn. And Ace would have started first grade. And Junior would have been in the thick of it with trying to get a diagnosis for autism. And I would have been on the struggle. We all would have been on the struggle bus. And in hindsight, it's obviously like, okay, like that wouldn't have been a good time. Would I have gotten through it? Absolutely. Yeah. But I'm always looking at the silver lining of things, right? Like, okay, well, and then even all of my past pregnancies is like, okay, silver lining is I haven't had to have a DNC again. Yeah. And that is because that was so fucking traumatic for me. Yeah. I haven't had to have that again.
Are you open? Because, you know, God forbid, this plan that you have right now with your fertility specialist doesn't work. Yeah. Are you open to IUI, IVF?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like I will do, honestly, whatever. I will say, though, in all honesty, I won't say like I will say that I'm like delusional in thinking that I will need that. I don't even want to think about that. Okay. I've been like, I know it's a hard process. I've seen other women go through it. I cannot even imagine. Right. And in my brain, I'm like, I don't even want to think about that until I have to. Right. Right now, we're going to do this.
You're going to do the plan that's set up for you right now. You guys are going to try naturally again. Yep.
And then I will cross that bridge when I get
the medicine that you need to. You waited the time. You're going to try again.
And I will cross that bridge when it gets there. Because I still think that there is no amount of research, no amount of talking to other women, no amount of anything that can prepare you for that journey. So I'm just like, I know myself, and I'm not going to get myself worked up and anxious over something that may not need to happen for me. The biggest thing that I've learned over this journey is that, one, I'm optimistic as hell.
We love that.
I am so optimistic, and we're gonna have a baby.
We're gonna have a baby.
But also that everybody's journey is different. Everybody's feelings are different, because again, I know women who won't even go to baby showers. They're so wildly triggered. And
that's so sad.
And that is sad, and that it's valid. It is so valid to feel those things. And to remove themselves from situations where, like, hey, I'm not going to make this about me, but, like, I know and I cannot move forward like this. Like, there's just no way. Where there's other women like me that, like, okay, like, that's fine. But, like, I'm still going to celebrate you having a baby, even though I can't have one right now. But, like, I'm still happy for you.
But everyone's different.
Everyone is different. And that's been my biggest takeaway of all of this. It's just, like, quite literally everyone is different. Everyone's feelings are different. When you have the option, it's different. When you don't have the option, it's different. You get desperate, or you just, like, don't care. Like, it is so it's so crazy.
Okay, well, now that we know this, how do we move forward?
So now we're trying.
Love that.
I could be pregnant. We'll see what happens. We'll see. It's April 17th.
You guys could know first.
We could know.
This could be it.
We'll see what happens. Yeah. I'm taking all of my medication, or not my medication, my vitamins and supplements that I need to be taking. Yeah. And honestly, like, I'm eating better. I go to acupuncture every 3 weeks. Yeah.
You're doing everything that you need to do.
And Liz and I have had this conversation. I can only do so much. Right. Science takes care of the rest.
Thank God for science.
I can only do so much.
Thank God.
And thank God for God.
Yeah.
So I literally can only do so much. I'm trying to just navigate motherhood and wifehood. Yeah. You know, like,
I was gonna say, and focusing on the 2 beautiful boys that you
and my mom
with in your life.
My mother says that to me. My mother says it to me all the time. I have more than what I don't have.
Yeah, that's true. That's wild.
I have more.
Rhonda dropping truth bombs.
Girl. She says to me all the time, I have more than what I don't have. So, I need to be grateful for what I have. Yeah. And if more comes, that's coming in abundance. Yeah. But
I'm not even a snapper, and I'm going to snap on that one.
I'm like, listen, I know this is supposed to happen for me, whether it's going to be naturally, whether I have to adopt, whether I have to whatever. I know that I'm supposed to have little mini Jocelyn's.
Running around. Jocelyn, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
But for being so vulnerable, so honest, so open, so relatable, so being real about your journey, because it has not been an easy one. It's been a whirlwind over the last 4 years. Yeah. And you have handled it with nothing but grace and beauty. And I'm so lucky to have you, and I'm so lucky to call you my friend.
I'm so lucky to have you in my corner.
Oh, I love you. And I know, I don't even have to ask them. I know the entire Too Pretty to Be Unhappy crew and community is on your side and sending love and
all
prayers.
The baby dust.
All the baby prayers and all the baby vibes and all the baby everything. Yeah. Because I know that you were meant to have your own children. So I love you so much. Thank you for being so strong and so wonderful.
Thank you for letting me.
All right, guys. Well, I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. Any of you that might be going through a similar journey to Jocelyn, we love you and we're here to support you. All right, guys. We'll have an amazing week. And as always, stay pretty.
Stay pretty.
Love you guys. Bye.